Microphone. Hello and welcome to the RPG Talk Show. I'm your host, Hawk Robinson, with co-host
John Welker.
This show discusses weekly news, information, commentary, discussion, and a debate about the effects of all role-playing game formats and their potential uses for professional, educational, recreational, and therapeutic goals. The RPG Talk Show is not about the latest modules and releases. There are plenty of sources for that information. We will mention such releases when related to the aforementioned topics, however. You can learn more about the RPG Talk Show, hosts, guests, and archives of previous episodes on our website at rpgtalkshow.com. You can follow us on Twitter at RPG Talk Show. You can catch our show live on twitch.tv/RPG Research on Thursdays 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time and chat with us during the live broadcast. RPG Research Patreon supporters can access the recorded episodes a month or more, sometimes 6 or 7 or 8 months or 2 years, before they are available to the general public as a thank you for your support. Yeah, there was like episode 3 or something. Yeah. Somehow I didn't set public. So, because I think we started in 2016 with the RPG Talk Show.
Yeah.
And so either December or January of 2016-17.
So how far are you caught up?
I've lost track. I'm so far behind. But if you're a Patreon supporter, you get great access. So consider that at patreon.com/RPG Research. Role-playing game formats that we cover include the original tabletop RPG, usually referred to as RPG or TRPG. Not 2 T's, please. You don't need 2 T's, only one. There could be only one. Live-action roleplay, a.k.a. LRPG or LARP. Electronic, and by the way, Oxford English Dictionary now has LARP as all lowercase rather than as acronyms. Yes, I kid you not. So that's why
LARP is now a new word?
Yes. That's why I still have LRPG as an acronym. Live action role playing game.
Is scuba a word now?
I don't know. Scuba diver is.
Right.
I don't know. I have to look it up.
Yeah.
I know. And it's all lowercase, too.
Which is...
Well, the LARPers have been fighting for that for a long time, and it has become so with the OED. They wanted it to be a word rather than an acronym. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that for about 20 years. Electronic, a.k.a. ERPG, and also solo adventure books or modules, a.k.a. SABM, and hybrid RPGs, or HRPG. This episode is sponsored by the wonderful Patreon supporters for the non-profit RPG Research, and we're also sponsored by RPG Therapeutics LLC and the wonderful Dots RPG project. Yay! Woo! They're awesome. In fact, we're wearing their pins. Thank you. Thank you, Jess, so much. So I've got the nice colorful one. Here's the bronze one from before.
It goes well with my...
So they make these wonderful Braille dice and other role-playing game and gaming aids for visually impaired and accessibility in general, as we're big accessibility advocates.
Braille,
so we have a good synergy there. Yeah, they're awesome. Check them out at Dots RPG.
Important thing, news thing about them is that they are working with D&D Beyond
to
make it more
help
accessible.
make D&D Beyond's website, because they also have a web developer background. Yeah. So they're helping them make their site more accessible, which is awesome. You can learn more about RPG Research, the nonprofit 501c3 research and human services organization studying the effects of all RPG formats and their potential to improve lives at rpgresearch.com, and about RPG Therapeutics LLC, the for-profit professional services company at rpgtherapeutics.com, and the aforementioned RPG Dots folks you can check out at...
Is that oo.com?
I'm forgetting... Is my internet not working?
It's working on my device.
No, I know, but it may be my laptop acting up. Oh, okay, what am I... I just want to make sure, because sometimes I space the URL. Dotsrpg.com. Why didn't that come up? Dotsrpg.com. Oh, I did RPG Dots, that's why.
Oh, okay.
I inverted it. So dotsrpg.com is where you can check out their wonderful products. And they'll donate a lot of them. If you're a nonprofit and you're out there helping people, they will donate you these wonderful Braille dice and such. So our show varies each week, but a typical format may include the latest general RPG news related to our focus on role-playing games and research in educational and therapeutic settings. community response and discussion, RPG-related theory and application discussions, latest updates on RPG research, RPG Bust, RPG Trailer, RPG Tour, RPG Therapeutics, RPG Education, etc. And so we have a lot to catch up on. We had to skip last week. I think it was just complete overload with stuff going on.
We had
to skip an episode last week.
We had to get prepared for.
Yeah, we had an awful lot happening on the plate. So we apologize for skipping last week, but we're back. Alive and well. And John, if you want to take it away, and we'll start going through our news topics here.
Excellent. Well, our first thing up for bid is alteraeon.com, altaraeon.com. This is a text-based role-playing game that is supportive to the blind and visually impaired player support, which includes sounds, music, and it works automatically with most screen readers to make it a little more accessible. So they can now a text-based role-playing game online is called Mush.
Well, so there's Muds, Mush, Moos. There's a couple of different variations. So there's Mud, which is multi-user dungeon. There's Mush, which is multi-user shared hallucination. There's Moos, which were multi-user object-oriented experiences. So there's a lot of different variants, but they're all text-based, either chat rooms or forums, things like that. Usually chat rooms going back to the IRC days or the BBS days, which I was very much a part of. And often there are bots and utilities that can handle the dice rolling and other things for you. So some of them are more for your own solo adventure, but there's many users on them. Some of them are for you to interact with others, go as a group. There's a lot of different variations on the theme. It's much easier than trying to program graphics, but it's still a lot of work. Creating one is a lot of work. And that's where Twinery is a useful tool, by the way.
Right.
Twine, through twinery.org. Lets you create interactive fiction diagrams and everything very quickly and easily, and it's open source. So.
Well, this is a lot more complex than normal
yes.
choose your own adventure, because this is hundreds of people choosing the adventure at the same time.
Yes. And they have a specific section that says, please see our blind and visually impaired player support page for help and client downloads. So they specifically try to improve the accessibility of this game for people who are blind and visually impaired. So it says, Alter Aeon is one of the most blind-friendly multiplayer games on the web. Nearly all of our players are blind or visually impaired, and our dedicated staff is constantly on the lookout for trouble spots. We highly recommend the Windows Mush Z client, MUSH-Z client, which adds sounds, reduces the amount of typing needed, and works with many different screen readers. This client is used by most of the blind and visually impaired players on Alter Aeon, and there's a link to get it. If you already have a MUD client that you're happy with, the Alter Aeon address is alteraeon, alteraeon.com, port 3010, port 3010. The resources below include both downloads we host as well as downloads and help from the large community of blind Alter Aeon players. Hopefully one of the clients listed below will work well with your computer and screen reader software. We hope to see you soon on Alter Aeon. And you'll notice, other than the little banner at the top, the entire website's text.
Yep.
You know, so there's no messy graphics and everything else. It's all text, which makes it way easier.
Screenshot and the whole thing.
Yeah, but it makes it way easier to navigate with a screen reader and such. And then they have information for clients for Windows. There's Gmud, Monkey Term, JMC, Gmud 32. They have Apple with they just recommend using a Telnet program over VoiceOver. Well, that's going to be primitive. And then Ubuntu Linux support. There's a whole bunch of different ones out there that they can use. Telnet client or Trenton client from SourceForge. The reader Orca does a fair job of keeping up with messages for either client, and you should have no problems playing the game. And then they've got other for blind and visually impaired sites. You can check out our friends, they say, at e-bility. So that's at e-bility.com. And they have a list of other games besides Alter Aeon that are blind-friendly, including board games and puzzles. Also, there is Gutterstar, GUTTERSTAR.net website. Has a number of other downloads for the visually impaired, which may be useful. You'll need to log in to download anything, however. So, for those of you, and we do have some visually impaired listeners and such that check into our stream and such, so I hope they probably know most of this already, but in case you don't, we hope you find that helpful. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who aren't visually impaired, spread the word and realize that these resources are available. There's a very vibrant community, international community.
We need to give this a try on one of our RPG research training days.
Yeah, definitely.
Give it a good
easy enough to do. Yeah, definitely.
I'll take off my glasses.
What do you got next there, John?
So next is last Monday, and we were on the air with an RPG training, and I forgot to mention that it was March 4th.
Oh, right.
Which is March 4th for International GM's Day. March 4th is also the day Gary Gygax died. This has been a holiday. It's not getting as much traction as it used to. There's a Dork Tower comic that is explaining a little bit why he thinks it's not getting the traction. And one of the players says, no, the real reason is because GMs are jerks.
Ouch.
Well, he was mad because this about that Turbonium dragon eating your 29th level Gold Slayer again?
He's not bitter.
Not bitter at all.
I'm not bitter. I'm just so full of hatred and the bile spews forth from my very bowels and onto the floor. Anybody have a breath mint?
Yeah. What was that from and why?
A friend of mine probably got it from somewhere else. Rob Veery down in Vegas. He used to do stand-up comedy and everything else. It may be his own original piece, or he may have gotten it from somewhere else, more likely. Right. And I got it from him.
Okay.
So I'm giving full accreditation. He and I were very close friends from 83 through 92, and then on and off. And he worked for me at one point in California, and then I saw him on the tour when I was in Vegas and stuff.
Wow.
Stayed in touch over since all those years.
I didn't know anybody that long ago.
Yeah.
My brothers and sisters.
Yeah, and if I'd made it to Texas, I could have visited Bowie, who's now a big high-power lawyer in Houston. He was the one who helped me take gaming to a whole other level. He took me through the Demon Queen adventure.
Right.
He GM'd me through that, yeah. And it was not long after that I really started to GM a lot more and stuff after that.
Did you do Against the Giants first?
I think so. I'm not sure. I would have been...
Against the Giants actually leads into the Demon.
Yeah, no, I know that. I was 10 or 11. So first I had a cousin introduce me back in 76, 77, whenever I moved to Utah. Mm-hmm. So I moved to Utah in 76, 77 from California, and I had a cousin introduce me to D&D right around then. So I've always kind of said late 70s, mid 70s, somewhere around there, whenever that was. I'm getting conflicting reports from my mom and such about whether it was 76 or 77. I used to think it was 79. And she's like, no. We moved years before that. I'm like, oh, okay.
I know it's 79 for me because
of your grandmother. Module. Yeah, well, and your grandmother too. So, yeah. But he introduced me to it when I was 6 or 7. And so, yeah, I was pretty young. He used the orange... No, that was later. Later, he used the orange NPC sheet. Before, he just used a piece of paper, and he used just scratch paper. And then sometime later, I don't remember later when, but we did the orange. He didn't have he was out of yellow character sheets or blue ones or green ones or whatever they were at the time. And I think golden ones came later. So he used the orange NPC ones at some point. But that was all, I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, first just used scratch paper. And then over time, we upped the ante. And so that was when I got to start playing. And then I don't think I GM'd until after Bowie took me through the higher level stuff, and I started having a little more confidence about taking that on at 10, 11 years old, trying to run a group. And then, by the time I was 13, I was being paid.
If you're watching right now, put a shout out in the comments to your favorite dungeon master or the person who introduced you to the game.
Right, that's what and I can't remember my cousin's name. I think it was Nicholas Arntz. I think it was Nick Arntz who introduced me, but I could be wrong. My mom can't remember exactly which one it was, but Could have been Aaron. But, so he would have been the one who first introduced me, and then played with a couple of different people, and he'd come over and, spend the weekend or something like that, and because we didn't know anybody in Utah, and so this was all family trying to help us connect. But then Bowie, I met him in the neighborhood, Clifford Bowie Husted. His dad was a colonel in the Marines and was active, long-time career colonel, tough guy. And Bowie introduced me to skateboarding. We skateboarded. We were gnarly skaters. We skated on really steep hills. We did some crazy stuff. And really kind of raised the ante on the gaming a lot more. Before that, it was intermittent. With him, it was pretty regular. And and as I said, now he's some big lawyer in Houston and such. And I was hoping to take the tour out to Texas because there are a number of people out there I want to meet, a lot of people that I haven't seen in years or we want to meet. But I didn't trust the bus to make it with that thrown rod in the engine. Shout out to those game masters who helped me get started. Thank you so much. It's been life-altering for the better, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Most of my friends I made over the years, especially after I left school, was because of Dungeons & Dragons and other role-playing games. Yeah, and I hear a lot of people say, for me, that's a little different. I made gamer friends, but partly maybe because I was paid. I rarely made friends through gaming. I have a tendency to compartmentalize my professional stuff from my personal stuff. And so, Rob I met through gaming, so he became a lifelong friend. But most of the players I met did not. They were just gamer friends. Like, we got along great. We knew each other. We shared a little bit, but it was all in the context of gaming. I probably never would have hung out with them outside of gaming. So I didn't make that many new long-term friends through gaming over the years. Those were through martial arts, basketball, outdoor survivalism groups. I did a lot of other things besides gaming. Somehow, because I did a lot of gaming too. I mean, if you look at how much stuff I have, I did a lot of gaming, but somehow I did all these other hacky sack and skateboarding and used to train horses. But I met a lot more friends through all those other activities than I did through gaming. That's why I said I've always kind of been a little bit of an outsider from the gaming community that way. One of the first things I would do when I get into a new town, I moved every 2 to 3 years of my life. First thing I do when I get into a new town is put out advertisements for gamers. Yeah. Wow. So those are the first people I would meet. Yeah. And I told you I was kind of a closet gamer through the 90s for fear, because the anti-gaming energy was so big by then. I was afraid it would affect my job opportunities, and I saw it affect people's job opportunities. If they admitted they were gamers, people didn't hire them because of it. Whether it was in automotive, because that was too geeky for the blue-collar techie thing, auto tech. Whether it was the photography industry, whether it was, even in computer tech, you'd think that would be the safest place to admit you're a gamer. But in more conservative states like Utah and Oklahoma and such, you did not admit you were a gamer unless you really knew somebody well, because you were not going to get those promotions if they knew. I worked all the way up to chief technology and chief information officer, and I think, at least until I was in Silicon Valley, I think it's a plus. But other places, you had to be really careful. I still gamed, but I was careful about who I said what I was doing. I didn't tell people. I was like, I'm hanging out with friends or something. So now, I wear it proud. I've got RPG license plate and bumper stickers, and heck, we've got 2 businesses and all of that. But it was actually something that I had to be careful about. And I think I was right. I think if I had not been careful, my career would not have done as well as I did in tech and elsewhere. Another holiday that is supposedly for this week, I think, sure, it must be in conjunction with International GM's Day, is Read an RPG Day. Read an RPG book in public yes. week. Yes. I read Doctor Who. Cool. What did you read in public? When was this? This week right now. This whole week? I haven't been out in public. I've been working so much. I'm breaking all the rules of a recreational therapist and balance right now, being a hypocrite.
my self-care is not being what it should be. Yeah, I'll need to do that. In the past, Drake, my youngest son, and I have gone to like Sherry's restaurant or something and actually run game there at the table.
That sounds like fun.
Actually run the game at the table while getting to eat and do munchies and stuff. You know, our own version.
If you beat this monster, you could have another sandwich.
But to do our own version of AFK Tavern or something, you know, over in Seattle and such. And people would give us looks, but hey, we had our books and screen and dice up. We were advertising loud and proud, so. But no, this week other than what we did, we'll talk about that a little later at the school, I've been just running errands and doing insane amounts of paperwork. Oh, we got the liability insurance, $950 for the year to cover you guys.
Okay.
So.
And that comes out of,
that's the LLC.
We don't have anybody named Darlene, don't worry. Daria. Okay. Beavis and Butthead reference, sorry.
In case you don't know why I just went off on that terrible tangent. Beavis and Butthead. All right. What else you got there, Joe?
Well, article written by Talien, Talien, on N-World.
Talien. That's Michael Tresca, by the way.
Right.
Do you know who that is?
Tell the audience.
He was a regular contributor to the Examiner for years. He did a really long interview with me way back, 2014 or 15 or something. And then he did a 3-part series on the rise and fall and rise of the professional gamer.
Right.
And now he's got his own Patreon and everything. So he's very active. He does a regular series of his daughters role-playing gaming, who are very little, like 3, 4, 5 years old. He started running them through. He was doing a My Little Pony princess role-playing game type thing with them, and has been sharing those adventures. And he's a prolific writer. And so, Talien is the username he goes under with a lot of his products. So, and he's on N-World now after Examiner started to rip everybody off. He went to N-World instead. So actually, I think he's editor there, isn't he? He's he's
a
also
contributor.
Yeah, I think he took over the board. I think he's now chairman of the board for the CARPGA, the Committee for the Advancement of Role-Playing Game Advocacy.
Okay.
So car-pga.org, I think. I can't remember if he's the board or just a major member now, but yeah, so he's active.
And I admit I do pull a lot of his articles.
Yeah.
So Dungeons.
I noticed that. That's why I wanted to point it out. I didn't think you realized who that was.
I chose the articles because they were relevant.
Sure.
So, Dungeons and Dragons, is it a toy, a game, or a book?
It's a game. It's a role-playing game.
Right. So, yes, this was a quiz. Previously discussed time when Dungeons and Dragons was considered as much as a toy as it was a book. Loss of D&D and stores was blown to a hobby in the younger generation. So, during the 80s and early 90s of the moral panic, stores like Walmart refused to may Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, lots of places did.
One of the places that did not carry Dungeons and Dragons possibly in the future
past tense
be
at this point.
Toys R Us. Now there's rumors of it trying to come back.
Okay.
Right now Toys R Us is gone.
Right.
And this hit the toy hobbies hard.
Toys R Us going bankrupt, going under, hit toy suppliers hard because they were a huge outlet.
Correct.
Yeah. But did not phase Hasbro's division.
It did phase Wizards of the Coast a bit because of Magic.
Right. But
as far
the
as
D&D part.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Because they're not sold there, no loss of revenue.
Yeah. Because it was all through your friendly local hood game store, hobby and game store.
And apparently
or
D&D
online.
Sports is a thing that's coming back. Is still a thing. Have you looked at that again since the first article we did on that?
Well, remember that group tried to do the Kickstarter and it failed?
That was a different one.
Okay, there's another group trying to do the same thing.
Well, there's the RPG League.
Yeah.
And
that's the Southern California group.
Right.
They did Kickstarter.
Esports.
Got about $1,600 because they were trying to have people pay to revamp their website. And it didn't work. They'll probably still try to make it go forward, but yeah.
So the RPG League had the website problem.
Yeah.
D&D esports, but they finally became RPG esports because Dungeons & Dragons said no.
Yeah, they're picky about that trademark.
But I haven't heard much from them since then. Just happen to remember it.
Right.
Speaking of products and stuff like that, Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh was one of my favorite modules of all time. It was the first British module of all time.
It's a good one. It is a good one. It's a very Scooby-Doo.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. No, it is very Scooby-Doo-esque. It's very much House on Haunted Hill without being full Cthulhu.
And without one of the players churning against the others.
Right, well, yeah, without being the board game. Because I always saw House on Haunted Hill as an homage to one of H.P. Lovecraft stories.
Oh, yeah.
Of that. And the Scooby-Doo, because, I mean, it's a cliche, or sorry, it would be a trope. But, Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh always seemed to me to be the toned-down version of the Lovecraftian story. With interesting twists and more Scooby-Doo-esque because of what it ends up being. So, spoilers.
If you haven't read it in the last 40 years.
Yeah, it's not as haunted as it's made out to be. In fact, it's actually a cover for a bunch of smugglers who are making everybody think the house is haunted through special effects. Does this not sound like Scooby-Doo to you, or what? So that they can smuggle, so they can use this house on the cliff to smuggle goods and services in and out of there.
Now, ironically, this spoiler is actually relevant as a current spoiler because Ghosts of Saltmarsh is coming out.
Woohoo!
And
so this is a 5th edition remake of Sinister Secret.
Right. And this includes a variety of seafaring adventures, enough characters levels 1 through 12.
Now, do they add so that was U1. Do they add U2 and U3? Or
U1, U2, and U3 are
all together
there.
Okay, that's a lot of adventure.
Including, so, Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, Danger in Dunwater, The Final Enemy, and then from Dungeon Magazine, they're also adding Salvage Operation, The Isle of the Abbey, Camelot's Fate, and The Skies.
And those were all part of the same series?
No, but they're going to try to make them part because they're all nautical. So theoretically, they're supposed to be all tied together as one.
Are they going to introduce a sailor or swashbuckler character class or anything?
Yes. Well, maybe not as a character class, but it's definitely a
NPC. But
well, not NPC. There's so
because
you can have pirate as sailor. A rogue archetype.
Okay, yeah.
So it probably will be a separate character class. Okay. It'll probably be an archetype. This is just speculation. Nobody's told me secrets. But they're also going to talk about, the rules you need for seafaring,
right?
The boats, the ships, that stuff like that. And I can't wait until May 21st.
May 21st, okay, that won't be long. And again, potentially maybe a better intro series,
as a full campaign.
It certainly is a campaign. If we could figure out a way to do it in a one-shot intro. Still have resolution, that'd be even better. The problem with Lost Mines is it's so much combat.
Well, Lost Mines starts combat.
That's what I mean. That it starts that way, and this doesn't. This starts as a mystery, and when there is combat, it's more dealing with the spiders and things like that, rather than slaughtering goblins and such. Or of course, in our case, we negotiated with most of them when we played it.
Yeah.
But most kids aren't, and. I want us to be able to introduce people to D&D with a more heroic approach. And so why not do a more Scooby-Doo-esque approach?
I actually had Lost Mines of Grand Elder had a group of under the age of 14, and I'm pretty sure under the age of 10, but the group was made for under 14. And when they found out that the Crag Maw Goblins had somebody as a prisoner, the first thing they did was offer to pay a bribe. Not a bribe, but a ransom.
Nice.
And so they ransomed him out there.
Excellent.
I'm looking for that 5th edition. Yeah. I definitely want to try it out. It will be my next campaign.
Is it on pre-order yet? If it's pre-order, I'll probably have to get in line for the pre-order. You know what's been frustrating about the pre-orders, though? I almost always get them later if I pre-order than if I just buy them when they go on the market. I end up getting things weeks later. It's so frustrating.
This is something that just is happening in the local friendly role-playing or gaming stores, FLGS. They are not getting the support they used to get. It used to be from Wizards of the Coast, you would get special minis to hand out, dice with markers on it. They would give a module, physical modules, physical maps to play in the stores. Now you have to download copies, and you have to buy your own copies for the most part. Now, the last thing that they were giving as a true support for physical stores was that you get it 2 weeks before.
Right. That gave the local store a hand up over the online resources. So it really brought it local, which was a good thing to do.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
There's no 2 week buffer.
Yeah.
The stores had it before Amazon.
Yeah, it's bad. I think it hurts I know it helps Hasbro, but I think it hurts the industry. Because, well, okay, I want to come back to this in a minute. Do you have any other news topics? Because I want to talk about your session yesterday.
All right.
You know, we have to be careful about personally identifiable stuff, but I want to talk about that in this context.
I will do some really quick ones here.
Great.
First of its kind, Meditations for Geeks album makes its mindful fun for fantasy lovers. You find this on PRNEWS. It's PRNnewswire.com or PRnewswire.com. Meditations for Geeks album that is coming out. It's therapy that's specifically targeted at the Harry Potter fans and Star Wars, etc. Gen Con. All conventions have blacklists.
Yep. Whether you like it or not, they have official blacklists.
And they have to have
of who's allowed and not allowed, usually based on if the police got called on somebody, things like that, and they had to be escorted out.
Right. If you got accused of being drunkenly abusing somebody at their convention, they have the right and the responsibility to ban you. And then they have to keep a list so everybody at the con knows who's been banned. Now, they also do not publish these names, especially for possibility of liability and
they can be
all
in
this
so much
other
trouble.
horrible bad stuff.
Yeah.
Gen Con has just made an the word they say they're not going to do. We're going to say the word for me. An exception.
Exception, yeah.
Okay.
They mentioned one person.
Yeah. This is the first time that I've seen any convention admit that this person is banned.
Yeah.
Friends.
Doesn't mean it is the first time. It's the first time you've seen it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just what I said.
Yeah. I'm just reinforcing that.
Yeah. At Gen Con, we have a policy of not disclosing the names of individuals who have been sanctioned or banned from our events. However, our statements regarding a recent ban has caused confusion and, more importantly, made people feel that Gen Con doesn't care about attendee safety. To clarify, I want to state that Zach S. has been banned from Gen Con, and we flat out don't tolerate harassers or abusers in our community or at our convention.
So, this goes back to 2 episodes, or 2 weeks ago, our last episode. We talked at length about this and related issues. Have you heard it all? Has Zach S. been arrested, prosecuted, charged, convicted, anything, civilly sued? Has anything happened in the civil or criminal court system? Again, not backing this guy at all. Sounds like he's a terrible jerk, awful guy. But I'm curious, because again, I haven't had time to research this. I've got other things.
I haven't dived enough, but in the parts that I've been reading about him.
He sounds like a piece of work.
Yeah, no, he sounds like a horrible person, but
yes.
I don't see anything where anybody's actually taking legal action against him.
That is scary, if that's the truth.
Yeah.
If there's been civil or criminal proceedings and there's been convictions, all that, great. But if that hasn't even happened, all of this has been the court of public opinion, basically the mob.
Mob mentality, not the mafioso.
Right. And then now Gen Con, again, if that person has not had any arrests, convictions, civil, any of these things, and I don't know. I don't know.
Well, part of the story and I'm going off my memory here, but I do believe that part of the story is that one of the complaints was something that occurred at Gen Con.
Right, that he touched somebody inappropriately or something. Yeah.
So Gen Con
were the police involved, or or they just security just escort them out, or so
Gen Con will not tell us that answer.
And I can understand that because of liability stuff. And so again, that's the tricky thing is, it sounds like this guy's a terrible guy. It sounds like it's totally appropriate, but it's also really dangerous on both sides, right? It's dangerous if they don't keep people like this away, right? People like this are terrible by all accounts. But it's also such a really bad precedent because if it's all hearsay based, that's dangerous too.
It's already a growing fact out there, and all the media, news reporters.
Yeah, all his work has been pulled from RPG Now, etc. And again, maybe he's convicted and all that. I just don't know. But there has been a trend in the last couple of years, and we already covered a lot of the previous episode, of convicted in the court of public opinion without proof. And then in recent months, it's turned out to be a bunch of falsehood. Not this guy. We're not talking about Zach, but other cases. For example, this is so dangerously sketchy to even go down this road. But there have been people who have been claiming that they were abused or whatever, and it turned out they completely made it up, and they were like big NBC, ABC, CBS, everywhere, and it turned out they completely made it up because they were trying to make a point, and so it didn't matter that they weren't telling the truth. And now, those people are in trouble, but this just happened in the last few weeks.
Actor who was assaulted by MAGA hat wearing white people who were yelling at him because he's gay and stuff, and it never happened.
Right, and then there's a MAGA wearing person. So this is so again, make sure. So MAGA is MAGA, Make America Great. These are people who are wearing hats or shirts that say that they're supporting President Trump's motto of Make America Great Again. That's what the MAGA thing is. And a quick little tangent. I just have to share this. I'm not going to say where I heard this. There is a version of MDMA coming from Europe into the United States, so ecstasy, that is orange and done in the face of Trump.
Now that's an anti-drug bill.
And apparently it's like very much cleaner than most of the stuff that's in the U.S. and such.
Okay.
And so it's really funny, and so I jokingly said, so they trying to make ecstasy great again? Is that? Yeah. I'm sorry, it's a total tangent. Anyway,
false accusations are a real thing.
Yeah, well,
unfortunately,
go back to Salem
rare.
witch trials, things like that. Throughout history, this is why the rule of law is so critical, and why it's so tricky. Right, because the court systems often are for women and such, or if you're LGBTQ, etc., can be problematic. That they have not felt the court system and the rule of law has served them, and so it has led to this. But this, so there was recently somebody who was wearing a MAGA hat, and somebody came up, and this was at Berkeley, decked him. This is on film. It's just happened last week or so.
Pure assault.
Complete assault and battery. It took like 9 days or 16 days or something for the school to get around to doing something about it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is really escalating. This mob mentality is escalating on both sides, and that's why it's dangerous. It's very concerning. It's very concerning. And to watch it just exploding in the gaming community is really disturbing. Again, I'm kind of more of an outsider to the gaming community. I'm watching these things, and I have my whole research background, so I'm observing these things with my note, my researcher's thing going, that's interesting. That's interesting. Watching this happening in the gaming community, just exploding. And I've already, with Spokon and others, I've watched people get banned because of basically they lost the popularity contest.
Right.
Somebody else didn't like somebody else, so they got put on the blacklist because they didn't like them. And they spread rumors around, and later it turned out the rumors weren't true, but it didn't matter. The damage was done.
And there is this tendency to call out if you have an accused person on your and they don't realize that the word accused does not mean guilty.
Yeah, and so it's very concerning what's happening because it's escalating. And but I understand both sides of the argument because the rule of law has not served a whole subgroup, has not served them well. Rape victims and such have not been served well by the legal system, because of the process. And so, in desperation, this is what a lot of people are doing. But this is really problematic and very concerning. And where the balance is, I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, so Gen Con has officially blacklisted somebody specifically, and as far as you know, it's the first time.
Yes.
I'd be curious if anybody else knows of any others that's happened. What else do you have?
Last thing, everybody knows what Kickstarter is, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. And they have made fortunes for people.
So it's a crowdfunding website where people can donate to help things happen. Yeah.
So
Critical Role
on Statista, STATISTA.com is the most successfully completed Kickstarter projects as of January 19, based on the amount of total funds raised in millions of dollars. Number one, Pebble Time. It was a smartwatch. Brought in $20.34
Wow.
million. Now, number 15 used to be Bring Back Mystery Science Theater 3000 reboot that's happening in 2015 at $5.76 million. Right now, number 15 is Critical Role, The Legend of Vox Machina animated special. Critical was supposed to make a single episode animated special based on their actual play role-playing game that they do every Thursday,
right,
called Critical Role, and it is the most popular actual play
tabletop role-playing games series. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, hands down.
So.
And we would be the opposite end of that spectrum.
We are the least popular.
Or close to.
Sometimes I'm not even watching and I'm here. All right.
Ouch. Ouch.
So next place in the line is at 6.23.
Right.
So when they get to 6.23 or 6.24, they will be number 13 on the list. Because currently they're only at 6.195.
And how many days into it?
They have 42 days left.
They're 3 days into it?
3 days in, and they've made almost $6.2 million. I would not be surprised. Well, no, I will be completely surprised if they don't break the 6.2 million by the end of the day. I think I'm going to watch it happen right here, right now. Because they're only $4,000 away from getting.
Now, of course, if you're not watching the stream live, it'd be Patreon supporters who get this kind of update right away, and then we release it in tiers to the public. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Their next goal, because you should have seen their looks on their faces when they hit the thing. Their next goal is 7.5 million.
Yep. No, they're going to hit that.
Yeah, they're definitely going to hit it, and they have another goal to happen after that. But this has become a complete ongoing series now. It will not be just a single show.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my news, but you had one last thing you wanted to talk about, and that was blog postings.
Oh, yeah. We've put out several recent blog postings that to our Patreon supporters first. And so if you're not a Patreon supporter, you're missing out. They will eventually be out there for the public. So it's at patreon.com/RPG research. And we put out all sorts of blog postings and content and research and our video and our audio and all sorts of content all week long, half a dozen programs a week. Some people like some of them. Everybody, we have different audience members for different types of taste. One that is public already is, at least I believe it is, RPGs, LARP, and geek culture in Saudi Arabia. So this is from one of our researcher staff. So we're at volunteer number 55. We have half a dozen researchers, and our staff are scattered around the world. Half are here in Spokane, Washington. The rest are across several continents. And Omar had gone into a game store locally there in Saudi Arabia, in the town he lives in, and found some gamers there and found out that they're trying to put together an Arabic LARP this summer. So then I encouraged him to blog about that, which he did on our internal intranet, the Role Playing Gamers Social Network.net, RPGSN.net. That's by invitation only at this point. And that's for our staff. It's our intranet and partners and such. And so he did it there, liked it, polished it a little bit. We made that public. So that's a great one. And he'll be giving more updates as that progresses. But through that conversation, I then talked to some others and then found out there's a group in Palestine who has created an Arabic language LARP. So I shared links on that, added it to the post, and so you can learn more about that progression there. So that's one that's out there and that's public. But there's some others that haven't quite gone public yet. They're in the release process. So one is on role-playing games and Bleed. That's from our researcher, Eric. And that will be public shortly.
Okay.
I think we're within about a week of that becoming, we're down to all Patreon supporters right now. So in a few more days, that will become public. And then the next one is from our Michigan State instructor. He's a professor, I don't know if it's Michigan State, one of the Michigan universities. And he did one on, where is it? What is role-playing? Not just role-playing gaming, role-playing. And he does a pretty in-depth blog posting. So we just posted that within the past week. Also, earlier ones I posted is a trans-theoretical model of role-playing gaming, stages of change, updated, Abaddon interaction patterns updated. So for those of you who want theory resources and such, check those out. They all end up on rpgresearch.com to the public because I'm a big open source advocate. But we don't have a whole lot to give to our donors, so we give them early access as a thank you for their support. That's the best we can do, right? Just thank you so much. Here you go. You get access a month or more, or 6 months or whatever before the general public. But I always want all of it to become freely available to everybody. So that's what's currently in there. And then we have a third one in the queue on the neuroscience of games and role-playing games. Mm-hmm. Mostly is video games, but also tabletop and such and LARP as well. That's coming from Omar as well, from Saudi Arabia. And so I recently helped him. Tuesday we went through and edited that up. So he's doing the final edits for that. And then that should be going live in the next few days to our Patreon supporters. So the way we have it is all of our researchers each month are supposed to blog post something a little less formal but interesting. And then every 6 months do a research essay, and then once a year do some major research project, right? It's an approximate thing that's what we encourage. In return for all the training and resources and everything else, we're giving back to the community this way. And one of the big research projects I'm working on and community projects is going to be, is role-playing gaming in prisons and incarcerated environments. And so Omar is going to be doing more research to help with that, and we'll all be working collaboratively on that. But each of them will have their different areas of interest, and it's really great to get all these different perspectives. For nearly 15 years, it was mostly just me finding other people's stuff and putting it out there, and I was the funnel for it. But now it's nice to get these other voices out there. It's always what I wanted it to be. I always want to be a facilitator. I want to be in the background and facilitate these things to happen. But it was necessary to be in the foreground. But now, as people are stepping up, hopefully more and more of that will happen. So there's a lot of great new content there. If you haven't been on the RPGresearch.com website recently, or on the patreon.com/RPGresearch, check it out. There's some great stuff there related to role-playing gaming.
We get that celebrity spokesperson, and you can just sit back.
If that would ever happen. A few other goodies that came in. We got these foam polyhedron dice. Now it's missing 6-sided, but these are nice for kids and such, and just also for visual and physical impairments. These can be handy to have these this size.
Yeah, we need another 6-sider. We also need a second 10-sider.
Yes, for percentile. I mean, you can roll it twice, but
yeah.
Also, this is to help with our live artists. When we run games, sometimes we have a live sketch artist, and my Wacom $600 tablet just disappeared some time ago. I have no idea where it went.
It disappeared during a show?
No. No. Before that.
Okay.
hope it will turn up, but it has not turned up. And I've searched now for about 8 months.
Okay.
Anyway, so we've had a webcam down, and they sketch on paper, and we've done the live sketches that way. But the Wacom bamboo, this is actual paper. You can stick in any paper pad that you want. It comes with a basic one, but you can use any. And it uses a special pen that you can, but it actually writes. It actually writes on here. You turn it on and you start writing on here, and then you click it to save it, and it stays in memory. And then when you're ready, you can send it all to your Android-capable device. I think it'll do Apple as well, I'm not sure. Through Bluetooth, and it gets synced to your phone, and then you can send it wherever and edit it and do whatever you want. Send it to your laptop, whatever. But the nice thing is, it holds it in memory, so it's digital. I don't have to be online I don't have to have it plugged into a device and have a computer and everything else. I can be walking around and be sketching. And it has a hard copy. If something goes wrong digitally, I've written it out on paper. I can scan that in if I have to. If for some reason the sync doesn't work or gets lost, battery races, whatever happens, I've got a hard copy backup.
I'm amazed because if you show that thing sideways,
it's very
how thick that pad is. That apparently it's going to be. It can read through.
Oh yeah, how thick the paper is. Yeah. That's about it. It says there's a certain amount you shouldn't go above. I think 80 pages or something like that. This is some pretty hefty paper too. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And it works. It works. I already tested it out, and it works quite nicely. So this helps because I'm always sketching new ideas and stuff. And then when we have the real-time artists here, I think that'll be a lot more comfortable for them. We don't have to do the we'll probably still do the webcam so it's live, but then it's backed up. Right? We've got both a hard copy and electronic copy ready automatically.
You know, it'd be fun is do character sheets on this.
Sure. Yeah.
You fill out your character sheet. You got your hard copy, but it's already saved.
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be fun, but it would be useful. And then let's see, was that all of the items? Let's see. Okay, blog postings. Oh, no.
Okay.
And then I want to also do a reminder mention because it came up in a Facebook conversation I was telling people about. So there's an occupational therapist who's working on his doctoral, and he's trying to make video games for therapy.
Right.
And so I posted a comment about, he was asking about tool sets and books and such. And I pointed to the venerable but wonderful Aurora tool set from Neverwinter Nights. Which is an awesome tool set to whip up multiplayer, single player or multiplayer, D&D style adventures. It's based on the D&D 3X rules-ish. I've had great results with that. You can set up your own dedicated server under Linux. It's free, so you can control the server. You can control who's on the server. It can be multiplayer. You can control the NPCs. You can script all the dialogue. So you can target, when you have a client and you want to target specific needs, you can make this game very quickly. You don't have to create all the sprites and everything else. There's a huge library. The community has added a ton. The community downloads are huge. It goes all the way back to like 2002. And they really before that, because that was the release date, they spent 2 or 3 years creating the Aurora toolset, and then a year or two making the adventures that Neverwinter Nights first came out with. And then they did Neverwinter Nights 2, etc. And it's still an active community, thanks to Linux and open source and all of that. Even though they didn't fully open source it, it was fully Linux compatible and parts they were able to do. It's amazing. It's still a vibrant community. But the key thing is it gave you freedom, right? All these other games, the problem is if the manufacturer shuts down the servers, you're done. You can't play the game anymore.
Right.
Right? Because you've got to log in, and sometimes there's hacks to get around that, but you can't really play with your friends. It's done. It's over. And they force you to go to the next game. This one, you can set up your own servers and play forever in your own dedicated world and create as many modules as you want and forever. It's awesome.
And a sense of control where you can actually step in and take over
NPCs and stuff like that.
That makes it really good.
And from a therapeutic and educational perspective, you can completely customize the content. You can create exactly the adventure that you need, and it's not difficult. It is a drag and drop visual interface and then very simple scripting. Now, there are more advanced programming features if you want to use. I've never really had to touch the more advanced features. It works beautifully with the simple features to just whip stuff up very quickly. You can take just a few hours and have a working adventure ready for a short adventure. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's so easy. So just wanted to put that back out there because a lot of people seem to not know about it. And like, how could you not know about this? Well, because it's
old and it's not
17 years ago. Yeah. Well, but they did a recent reissue and such of it as well with the improved graphics and such. So a few more people are aware. But yes, if you are interested in using, if you're looking for a tool set to use role-playing games in a computer setting, so CRPG, for educational therapeutic settings or just your own custom stuff for friends or entertainment, check out the Aurora toolset. And I like to do it all under Linux, so that's the beauty of it, of the original Neverwinter versus Neverwinter 2. It's a little trickier. It's all Linux friendly. It's cross-platform. You can run on Windows or Linux, which I love. And actually, the Linux one's more stable than the Windows one.
Of course it is.
It's not always that way. That one's ported over, but yeah. So anyway, there's that tidbit that I wanted to put out there. Okay, so we're running a little over, but I wanted us to come back to, we were talking about remember I said we want to bring it back to
Ghost of Saltmarsh, First of Kind Meditation,
it was
Gen Con,
the community.
The Dungeons and Dragons is not a toy, so they get hurt in the stores. International GM's Days, alternate.
So what I wanted to bring up is your session yesterday at Spokane Public Schools.
Right.
And we didn't have a huge showing because people are still. A couple of kids were in detention. This is at an alternative school, so these are high-risk kids. Some of them lower functioning, significant developmental delays, etc., significant impairments, and they've had trouble just getting the permission slips in. But so that day alone, 2 kids called in sick, and 2 kids were in detention. So we were down a few kids, but it still went really well. So you were running.
I was running Doctor Who Adventures in Time and Space with an audience of 1.5.
Well, it was 2. Yeah, let's not get into too much detail about that. And then Danielle was running Adventures in Middle Earth.
Yeah.
And so, but the key thing was one of the individuals at your table really, really, really struggled just trying to decide between fantasy and sci-fi, and was really struggling even just communicating, even just trying to, just really struggling. And I wanted to point out, in the future, if that happens, don't try to explain the game so much. Ask them what they like. What movies and shows and books or comic books do you like to watch, to help them decide whether they want fantasy or science fiction. Then you can suggest, oh, well, then this is like that. That would have been, I think, helpful with his overwhelm of decision.
Right.
It was too hard for him to decide because he knew nothing about what a role-playing game was. He was curious, but he had never role-played before, had no idea what it was, and it is hard to explain a role-playing game to a new person.
I think this was a good one for him to start because the rules are so simple.
Yes, the Doctor Who role-playing game rules are really easy to jump into. They're less complicated. But I think one of the folks at Danielle's table is definitely struggling on the lower IQ functioning level, and was struggling just identifying different dice types. Had a helper there as well, but once he did it enough times, it stuck, and immersion levels went up and up and up. Except for when the darn teachers kept coming in. We had
some choice.
4 or 5. The principal came in and 4 other teachers came in. Now, the principal, she didn't disrupt. She was good about it. But we had 4 different teachers come in and various levels of disruption because they were so curious about what this is about. And one of them, she literally came up and interrupted all the gameplay and started asking questions about what they were doing and this and that at both tables. They went over and hovered over at your table. They went back and hovered at the other table. And I watched I have the observed immersion scale from 0 through 10. They were up around 6, and she came in and dropped them to 3, right? Because they were so distracted by her. And they wanted to stay focused. You could tell they're kind of like, let us play the game, right? But the one, so it was really, all of it was really great. This is why we do what we do. It was awesome to see. This is a paid contract. Now, what's cool, too, is this is not taxpayer money. Yeah. Businesses have donated to the school district for these programs to help. And so this, because, I have a thing about people being able to decide where the money goes and such. And so it's great that this is from businesses who donated for these types of activities. Because I know some people also are like, well, here's some taxpayer money. Nope. we avoided
we're not
that
spending
one.
Taxpayer money either.
Yeah. So
well, I'm a taxpayer. I'm spending my money.
So, but especially one of the ones at your table, the transformation, once we got one of the teachers to stop directing him too much. He was trying to be helpful, but adults do this too much. They try to be too helpful rather than let the kids figure it out. They try to stop the kids from screwing up, but the kids need to screw up. That's where role-playing gaming is safe to screw up so they can learn. And once he got a little more out of the way because he got the message, oh my goodness, that kid opened up. And it was really interesting because his affect is so flat. Did you notice?
Yes.
Very flat affect. But when the person came in, he's like, I am having so much fun. Right? Said that to her.
With his flat face.
Yeah, with flat affect. So there's a disorder for that where your affect doesn't match and such. But so it was hard to read. I could tell he was immersed. I couldn't tell what his mood was.
Yeah.
But from his verbalizations, oh wow, he was into it. And when the game was over, it just kept saying, "Thank you so much, thank you so much. This is the great." His world just went from this little tiny thing to this, and the wonderful creative things he was coming up with were awesome. And he wasn't like, and some of the things you had to say no, like, well, that's not really there. Yeah, that's not there. Nice try, but you could work towards that. He was like, okay. But he broke out of the little boundaries and went, well, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try this. Awesome! Yeah, just loved seeing it. And similar things were going on at the other table, too. I know you can't monitor the other table.
No, I couldn't tell the other table.
Yeah, I monitor both tables. Similar things going on. Both of them had role-played a little bit before, especially one of them a lot. But, yeah, they all had a really good time, and just watching them just transform. That's why we do this. And it just works. Now, it doesn't just automatically work with these populations if you don't know what you're doing. If we had stuck these kids in a game at a convention or a game store, probably would not have gone well. This school already tried this on their own a year ago, and it blew up. So it is the training that you and Danielle were GMing these tables, have gotten. That made and Danielle did a great job. She overcame her anxiousness and such that she did. We were concerned about that here.
Yeah,
she was confident. Prep we did. Yeah, she was confident. She was on top of it. She did a very good job. I was really relieved, and of course you were on top of it as well. I took a lot of notes, and there's always room for improvement, but you guys did a good job. And the proof is in the transformation these kids had in one session. Dramatic in one session, and so. There's so much more coming. Now, he says we're going to do this till the end of May, but we might push into June if there's enough interest. My hope is we'll see this like other programs we've done where it just grows and grows and grows. So, but there was something in there that I wanted to talk about that tied in.
Saltmarsh.
It was Saltmarsh?
Saltmarsh is the only tab that I don't have up anymore. So you're talking about using Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh as our campaign.
Oh, if you're using D&D.
As opposed to Lost Mine of Phandelver, or even the Waterdeep.
Yeah. Because the problem with Waterdeep is it's fine for experienced gamers who know what to do. It's too open-ended for new gamers. When you stick new gamers in a city game that doesn't railroad, it's overwhelming for them. Now, they've got an introductory adventure that can kind of help, but I've been watching... And I watched the overwhelm of choices with new players.
Right.
And the problem is folks don't think outside of their gamer bubble. And when you throw people in who haven't gamed much or haven't gamed at all, like this new kid, they have no idea what to do. This is such an alien activity compared to anything else anybody has ever done. The closest we've been able to introduce people is drum circles because of the cooperative nature of that. But without going through that process, this is completely new, except for that it is the let's pretend aspect. And so finding games that really held their hand, and I've talked about over and over and over, the Frank Metzer Red Box and such, really helped them. And so I'm hoping with the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, because it is a haunted house crawl, they have the freedom to go explore, so they have that level of freedom, but there are very specific things that you go through from step to step to step that help them. And if anybody has seen Scooby-Doo or any haunted house mystery, they have an idea of what to do. So I'm hopeful that that might be a really good one for these types of communities. And they are not inherently about going around and killing goblins and stuff like that, right? They're inherently about solving a mystery, and how you solve it is very open-ended. So it's railroady in that it sets it in a limited parameter that's manageable to start out, right? You got a house, you got to explore it. It's not huge. It's, you know, it can take them a while to explore it, but it's really not a huge house.
Right.
And that's a concept that people understand who never gamed before. And then it can grow from there, right? Once they start to get their teeth into it, get the hang of it, then they can, you know, the campaign grows from there. But that seems like a really good starter point. I mean, again, it depends on how they write it and what they do. And some of these rewrites have not been so great. So we'll see what they do. I hope they... Do you know if it's a European team doing it, or is it the local Seattle team?
I do not know that.
Because that was a key thing, was it was Europeans that, you know, British folks that wrote it.
It was the first...
and then there's the whole UK
British
series as well.
Well, that is...
Well, there's the U series and the UK series. They're all British ones. And they were distinctively different play style that I really liked. They were much more role play, ROLE play, than a lot of the American ones.
That reminds me of a recent tweet.
Yeah.
So, Bemberfoot strikes back at Bemberfoot on Twitter. Changed my mind. Older D&D players hate bards because they don't actually know how to role play.
What?
Change your mind.
Oh, it's a change your mind guy. Okay.
Yeah, he wants. I want you to argue this point. And I responded with, I'm 52 and I've been playing since 1979. My favorite class is Bard. And in fact, I am playing a Bard every Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in a first edition game on twitch.tv/RPG Research. Missed Heroes. Whoa, I don't want to see the activity. And I got a response back.
Okay.
Replying to you at Saga_Wilker and at RPG Research and at Missed Heroes. Again, this is an overgeneralization. Of course, I'm not saying all people who played in the past couldn't roleplay. I'm just saying that much like any hobby, it is advanced and evolved to an extent where it's glaringly obvious we were all just experiencing and figuring it out. He's 40. He says the thing, and he added a picture of some kid with a hat that says respect and tipping his hat. So there is a thought that early role-playing games were more of the war game concept.
Yeah, but it's a misconception.
It is.
It's a total misconception. Yes, it came from wargaming. And yes, Gygax and such were wargamer types. And the early dungeon crawls were very hack and slash limited. But in the 70s, not the 80s, you saw the role play really expand exponentially. And though the adventures were written to be pretty procedural and such, right?
Right.
The way they were actually played. See, if somebody's reading these without the context of the time period of how we played, they might be limited to that box of only what it says right there. But there was an awful lot of unwritten rules of... So one of the things about Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, a lot of people say, oh, these really complex, crunchy systems. What? It's a little bit of a mess. Things are jumbled around and such as that. I agree with you on that. But it is not a complex system, and it doesn't dictate your role play. In fact, it has very little because it's a non-skilled system unless you added second, skills and such in later editions. It's very open-ended, and you didn't roll that much. You ROLE'd a lot, not ROLL'd.
Two alignments, chaos and
3.
law.
There's neutral.
Right, if you're an animal.
Or druid.
Was druid even part of basic?
It was one of the 6 they added. I think they added druid.
Yeah, it wasn't part of basic, though.
No, not basic, but in the original add-ons. Anyway, there are so many misconceptions spread around, and unfortunately we go back to my gamer floater theory. the less than 10% of the population is what was seen most of the time playing games in public. And these were the either more dysfunctional or very narrow set of people, not the majority of the gamers. So I did notice at the game stores, this is why I didn't like to play at game stores, and the little bit I saw of conventions, I didn't really go to conventions. The gameplay style was much more competitive wargamers, dungeon crawl type combat heavy. That was not the games I played, whether as a player or a GM. With many other different GMs, as well as myself, we role-played the heck out of these games. There was an awful lot that wasn't spelled out that was there for us to fill in through our interaction. They gave us a scaffolding to start with. These adventures, and I really think the older modules are better at those scaffoldings. They try to give you so much. They try to cover every little contingent now in the newer stuff, and they don't really give you a good scaffolding anymore.
Right.
They, and those are more like so. Merp and Rollmaster broke it out into adventure modules and campaign books, and really most of them now are campaign books, not adventure modules. And the problem with all the adventure modules is you don't have the scaffolding, and scaffolding in therapeutic and educational terms helps people have a starting point while they learn new skills. And they've removed a lot of that scaffolding, a lot of these in the last 20 years. That I think was a critical part of the process, because people say it's too railroady, etc. I'm like, well, there's a place for that. Yeah, once you get into it, you don't need all that. But if you're buying modules, you want some really good scaffolding and good resource.
People who buy and use modules do it because a lot of that work has already been done for them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, lots of us create our own settings. And then there's times we just like to play something else that's already been done for us, and we want it to be quick and easy. So anyway, we're running way over here, but some awesome stuff. Did it cross over yet?
It's at 6.21 out of 6.23 for the next level. So we're close.
Really close. All right. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Again, Thursdays, 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. We're live streaming on twitch.tv/RPG Research. If you're not yet a donor to the 501c3 nonprofit RPG Research studying the effects of all role-playing game formats and their potential to improve lives, please do consider it. Swing by patreon.com/RPG Research and join as a Patreon supporter and get early access a month or more before the general public to these podcasts, vidcasts, lots of content. Or if you want to donate other ways, go to rpgresearch.com/donate. You can donate through PayPal. You can pick us as a charity on smile.amazon.com. Lots of different ways you can help support the work we're doing here. We hope you enjoyed all this information, and wherever you may be well, happy gaming, and namaste.
Dream well.